The word crossover is very much in our lexicon these days, but it definitely wasn't back in the 70s before the SUV craze took over the world faster than a Kardashian. But AMC were the first ones to do this with the AMC Eagle, and they developed this car for a tiny fee using ingenious engineering, and the public absolutely adored it until they didn't. The AMC Eagle is an incredible story of an incredible car that built something that was just way ahead of its time and did it with class, conviction, and a final gamble for the AMC Corporation. This is the AMC Eagle. I'm Jason Hassett, and welcome to Automotive Storytime. Hello everybody and welcome back to The Car Nerd, and in this episode we're going to be talking about the world's first crossover that was way ahead of its time in the AMC Eagle. If you're new here in these episodes, what we do is I have some fine people research stuff for me and I go through it then with you fine subscribers. So obviously it is taken from the interwebs, which is violently unreliable. So if you find anything in this that you think is inaccurate or that you think I've missed, please do head down to the comments, and instead of saying, hey, you fat, bald weirdo, stop making videos, give us some feedback and let us know and let everyone else know what information we've missed so that we can all learn together about the car world that we absolutely love. And while you're down there, why not hit like, comment and subscribe to give me some free cash. I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. And let's get into the AMC Eagle. The 1970s oil embargoes and soaring gas prices forced American buyers to seek more fuel-efficient cars. Heavy body-on-frame SUVs and big V8 sedans fell out of favour. A second energy crisis then hit in 1979, causing sales of AMC's profitable but thirsty Jeep 4x4s to slump. AMC, a small, struggling financially automaker, needed a novel product to survive this volatile market. By the late 1970s, AMC's passenger car lineup, the Gremlin, the Hornet, Concorde, the Pacer, were all aging and incredibly uncompetitive, and new model development was hamstrung by incredibly tight budgets. The one bright spot for AMC was the aforementioned Jeep division, known for its rugged 4x4s, but facing decreased demand due to poor fuel economy. Company leadership decided that there was an opportunity here to bridge the gap between efficient passenger cars and go-anywhere Jeeps by combining articles of both. AMC predicted that customers would embrace a vehicle with the comfort of an automobile, but the ride height and foul weather capabilities of a four-wheel drive utility vehicle. And at the time, true four-wheel drive was basically limited to trucks and off-road vehicles due to the massiveness of the transmission systems needed. The only four-wheel drive-like cars in the US were small imported Subaru wagons, and even those had only part-time four-wheel drive not suitable for dry roads. AMC sensed the niche. They sensed that there was a crossover in the midst. A car-based 4x4 that offered all-wheel traction without the bulk and thirst of a truck. This vision was essentially to create something entirely new, something that today we would call a crossover SUV, but back then they didn't have that name, so they didn't call it that. I haven't gotten this far yet, so I don't know what they called it, but I know they didn't call it that. It's just, it's important. The concept for the Eagle originated with Roy Lunn, AMC Jeep Division's chief engineer and a veteran of the Ford GT40 program. Lunn had long envisioned a line of four-wheel drive vehicles with the ride and handling conventions of a standard rear-wheel drive car built on a unibody platform. In fact, as early as 1972, he had experimented by installing a Jeep Wagoneer's Quadra-Track four-wheel drive system into an AMC Hornet wagon in the basement of his home. A great proof of concept for a four-wheel drive passenger car, but definitely a massive strain on any man's marriage. That early test ran into issues: noise, vibration, poor handling, and a wife that would no longer cook his dinner and told him that she was going to stay with her sister for a while. And as you can imagine, it never made production, but they did make a divorce. I'm making this up, by the way. I'm hoping he's still happily married. I don't even know if he was married then. I'm just making wife jokes because I was told that's what we're supposed to do when we get married. I can't make, ex jokes anymore, so I think we should just stick on track with this. All right, Derek, calm down. It did, though, plant the seed for what would become the Eagle a few years later. In 1977, with AMC now desperate for product innovation, they brought old Roy in to pitch his wild, wacky idea. Internally under the code name Project 8001 Plus 4, AMC's CEO at the time, Gerald C. Myers, agreed that such a vehicle was a logical step for the company. The project got greenlit as the low-cost, rapid development program to leverage existing AMC parts, and Lund partnered with the UK firm Ferguson Formula FF Developments, famed for their work on the all-wheel drive Jensen FF, to help develop a viable full-time four-wheel drive system for a passenger car. And the first prototype was kicked out in 1977 by this team, and they took an AMC Hornet chassis with a V8 and split the torque between the front and rear wheels, 3367 to be exact, a 3367 front-rear torque split. The prototype proved the concept, and further testing led Lund to specify a closer to 50-50 torque split, and then wanted an AMC 4.2-litre inline-six engine for the production model, because Roy Lund doesn't do things by half measures, except his poor marriage. I really hope he's not divorced. Like this, I'm not even checking. I'm not looking it up. Roy, you're watching this, I'm sorry. It was a joke that got violently out of hand. And if you are watching this, Roy, just let me know by hitting the subscribe button so I know you're watching. I'd really appreciate it. As we got to the big rear end of the 70s, AMC was very much strapped for cash. I'm not doing it. And AMC's newly hired marketing vice president, Tom Stout, formerly a Chevrolet exec, became an enthusiastic champion of the Eagle. In mid-1979, before launch, Stout raved that AMC had come up with what was simply the best idea in the history of Detroit. And he was astonished they only planned to make 40,000 units for the first year. His reaction underscored the optimism inside AMC's ranks that the Eagle could be an absolute game changer. With AMC nearly broke, the Eagle's development had to be extremely frugal. Roy Lund and his team creatively parts bin engineered the car using the existing Concorde platform and Jeep components. Astonishingly, the entire development of the AMC Eagle cost just $6.5 million, which by car standards in the 70s, even back then, was a tiny amount. This shoestring budget forced smart engineering choices and reuse of tooling, demonstrating AMC's knack for innovation on the cheap. The Eagle was essentially built by joining an AMC Concorde car body with a Jeep-derived four-wheel drive system. The Concorde, itself a facelifted Hornet, provided a lightweight unibody platform and a good front suspension for adaptation, and engineers found the Concorde's independent double wishbone front suspension ideal, as its layout left room to add front drive axles and a differential without major redesign. At the rear, the Concorde's simple leaf spring solid axle could handle a slight lift and larger wheels. This was critical. It meant AMC could create a four-wheel drive car without a complete chassis overhaul, and as David E. Davis of Car and Drive noted, "The Eagle is not a Concorde with Jeep underpinnings, but an entirely new approach to the four-wheel drive for road cars." David, of course, is from Utah or something. I don't know where the accent came from. The heart of Eagle's development was its innovative full-time all-wheel drive driveline. Traditional 4x4s of the era had part-time systems that could not be driven on dry pavements in four-wheel drive. To make the Eagle an all-weather road car, Roy Lund's team adopted a single-speed center differential with a viscous coupling developed with Ferguson to apportion power between front and rear axles. The center's viscous fluid coupling, described as filled with a honey-like silicone fluid, I am hungry now, would allow normal differential actions for smooth on-road driving and automatically send torque to the axle with more traction when wheels slip, which is way ahead of its time. This gave the Eagle a sure-footed grip in rain, snow, or mud without any driver intervention. The Ferguson formula-derived all-wheel drive setup included an open differential with the viscous limited slip unit, giving the Eagle a leg up on Subaru's crude part-time four-wheel drive systems of the day. And this even preceded the Audi Quattro system, which debuted around the same time, and it actually brought all-wheel drive into the mainstream, even though the Eagle did it first. Many pieces of the Eagle's four-wheel drive system came, obviously, as we've noted, from AMC's Jeep parts bin, adapted for car duty. The prototype and early developments used Jeep's quadra-track transfer case and axle know-how, but for production, a new Ferguson-derived transfer case called the New Process 119 was implemented, integrating with viscous coupling. The front differential was cleverly bolted to the engine block with Dana-designed constant velocity half shafts driving the front wheels. Uniquely, the Eagle thus became the first US-made car with an independent front suspension and four-wheel drive. But all this extra features did add weight, 300 pounds to be exact, and obviously required raising the ride height modestly, which, in fairness, you'd want to do because it's a crossover. But AMC managed to incorporate it without making the car unwieldy. The Eagle rode 3 to 3.5 inches higher than the Concorde and sat on larger 15-inch wheels for extra clearance. And this was good because visually AMC had to signal that this wasn't just a standard Concorde. This was a more rugged off-road vehicle for the man who has nothing in his bank account but still wants a nice big SUV. The Concorde body was modified with flared wheel arches, modest all-terrain tyres and protective rocker mouldings to accommodate the taller stance. Its bumpers were revised, slimmer and tucked in, which ironically made the Eagle a few inches shorter overall than the Concorde despite the added hardware. The wagon version even offered trendy optional wood grain paneling on the sides. This was trendy for the time, it wouldn't be later on. Inside, the Eagle carried over the Concorde's interior and dashboard almost unchanged, except for the addition of a selector switch on modules equipped with a part-time four-wheel drive option in later years. AMC's engineers fortified the unibody in key areas to handle the stresses of off-road use. See, I could have put another joke in there, because they said handle stresses. Fine, I'll just get back to it. And they proved skeptics who thought a unibody car wouldn't be any good off-road with extensive testing of early prototypes. Basically, the Eagle's development was a clever amalgam of existing components and new technology, yielding a car that could be sold and serviced like other AMCs, but do things no other car on the road in 1980 could. One early challenge was drive chain noise, and AMC had to ensure that adding all-wheel drive didn't make the Eagle drive like a tractor. Fine-tuning with everything else they had built in maintained a quiet and comfortable ride. Another issue was fuel economy. Full-time four-wheel drive adds drag and weight. So engineers in 1981 introduced a select drive system that allowed the driver to disengage the front axle and run two-wheel drive for better mileage at any time. This part-time mode, initially requiring the car to stop and switch, was a stopgap to ease buyer concerns during the early 80s fuel scares. So despite such hurdles, the Eagle's development is very much remembered as one of just sheer genius. Instead of just doing your usual parts bin special where a company is just trying to save money, this is engineers doing what they do best, trying to save money with innovative solutions that actually make the car better all round instead of worse. Throwing more money at the situation, sure, that can help fix things, but it doesn't give you this innovative genius and this car that they can now sell at a reasonable price. The AMC Eagle was officially introduced on August 23, 1979, for the 1980 model year. It launched in 3 body styles, a 4-door sedan, a 2-door coupe, and a 4-door station wagon, all based on the compact Concorde platform. AMC revealed the Eagle to the press in Kenosha, Wisconsin, home of the AMC plant, in the summer of 1979. Early prototypes were made available for journalists to drive, generating considerable buzz. Reporters came back reeking of enthusiasm after trying the Eagle. Unfortunately, the term crossover didn't exist yet. So AMC in their marketing materials had to use language that people back then would understand. They called it a passenger car, a vehicle, an automobile, and a sport machine. Not exactly sales-worthy terms. One brochure touted passenger car comfort plus four-wheel drive security for all-weather safety. The company deliberately avoided labeling it as a truck or SUV. They wanted buyers to see it as a new kind of car, not an off-road toy. Advertisements showed the Eagle tracking snow and muddy roads that would strand ordinary cars, often with the tagline, "The beauty of four-wheel drive. One memorable TV commercial, an early wagon engages in a tug of war on ice against a front-wheel drive car. Naturally, the Eagle's superior traction wins, dramatically demonstrating its value to winter drivers. The Eagle name itself, as you have probably guessed, was designed to give that American strength, that just like America, this car could go anywhere, whether that be the winters of Alaska or the desert plains of Iraq. It was an 80s George Bush desert storm. It doesn't matter. We'll move on. Between this and the divorce jokes, I feel like I'm being inappropriate. Am I? You're fired. AMC targeted buyers in the US's snowbelt and other rural and suburban areas where inclement weather was common. They pitched the Eagle as the answer for customers who must get through regardless of road or weather conditions, as well as those living in areas of bad weather or unpaved roads. The Eagle, thanks to Roy's ingenious engineering and the team, obviously, was also able to undercut massively other trucks and 4x4s in price. The base two-door model started around $6,999, about $26,700 in today's money, and the loaded wagon at $7,500. This pricing placed it in between cheap four-wheel drive Subaru DLs and AMC's own larger Jeep Wagoneer. This was ideally a sweet spot for middle-class families. From day one, AMC emphasized that every Eagle came with a full-time four-wheel drive system and a smooth automatic transmission, making it user-friendly for every driver. AMC originally forecasted modest volumes for the Eagle, unsure of how the market would respond. The initial plan was to build around 40,000 Eagles per year, starting with the 1980 model, a cautious figure given AMC's limited factory capacity. Early feedback, however, indicated that demand would far outstrip that. Dealers in snowy regions began reporting wait lists even before the first Eagles arrive, and AMC's marketers pushed management to ramp up production. In fact, shortly after launch, AMC doubled its first-year production estimates and even made a dramatic shift. It announced the aging Pacer would be dropped so that the factory space and resources could be redirected to building more Eagles. This was a bold move, discontinuing one model midstream to free up capacity for the new hot seller. It underscored AMC's all-in strategy on this vehicle, which could be a mistake. Foreshadowing. Upon release, the AMC Eagle received an enthusiastic reception from many automotive journalists. And the Eagle's engineering novelty itself didn't go unnoticed. It earned Popular Science's Best of What's New award in 1979 for its drivetrain, and the Society of Automotive Engineers honoured the AMC and Ferguson with an Innovation Award for making full-time all-wheel drive workable. And the public reaction mirrored this positive press. The Eagle hit showrooms in fall of 1979 and immediately sold briskly. AMC dealers in the Northeast and Midwest found the Eagle drawing new customers who had never set foot in an AMC dealership before. Many buyers were coming out of domestic station wagons or sedans and saw the Eagle as a way to keep car-like comfort while gaining foul weather confidence. In these regions, the AMC Eagle was even commanding full sticker price, a rarity for a brand like AMC. For the 1981 model year, AMC expanded the Eagle family. They introduced two smaller sprint-based models, the AMC SX4, a sporty two-door liftback, and the Eagle Camback, a subcompact two-door hatchback, which was essentially a four-wheel drive version of the AMC Gremlin. These were aimed at entry-level buyers and even fleet markets, and in 1981 the company also brought a new engine choice, a 2.5-litre four-cylinder engine out of the Iron Duke, and they paired this with a 4-speed manual transmission. This gave the car some crucial fuel economy. And in 1981, sales stayed strong. By 1982 though, the novelty began to wear off. And unfortunately for AMC and the development of crossovers, this wasn't the car that was killed by copycats, but instead by recessions, downturns, and just internal distractions. They tried to fix this by introducing a diesel model, but Americans and diesels, at the time wasn't a huge win for them, and a convertible model which also didn't go down too well. By 1984, The Eagle lineup was streamlined back to just the four-door sedan and wagon. And it was actually a decent year for this. AMC still managed to sell about 25,000 Eagles, aided by the fact that the 84 Eagle was one of AMC's last homegrown products. The Eagle got a few minor upgrades too, a new shift-on-the-fly select drive system, and in 1985 finally allowed drivers to shift between two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive without coming to a stop. In 1985, they still managed to sell 17,000 units, but then it dramatically dropped off for 1986 to below 10,000 units, and AMC was now thoroughly in trouble. American Motors' financial troubles led to a controlling takeover by Renault in the early 1980s and ultimately a sale to Chrysler by 1987. After Chrysler bought AMC in 1987, the Eagle was granted one more model year, 1988, during which it was branded simply as the Eagle wagon. Only about 2,300 Eagles were ever built for the 1988 year, a far cry from how many it had sold in its first year in 1980. But in total, in its 8-year lifespan, about 120,000 Eagles were produced. But that would be it. The end of the Eagle after it finished up its 1988 dismal sale model year, and AMC itself would slowly go away, with only Jeep now around as kind of the remnants of that company. But incredibly impressive that they managed to develop a car so cheaply and develop a car that was so loved for at least a few years. It was kind of a final whim for AMC, and to be fair to AMC as well, I think it's incredible that they managed to just go all in on it. Like, it's really impressive when they go all in on something like that. And personally, I love to see it. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to watch the next one, and don't forget to subscribe. Oh, and if you enjoy the AMC Eagle, we've made a cool illustration on some t-shirts that you can find at shop.hassettstudios.com. And for you, find subscribers, use the code FOREVER20 at checkout to get 20% off.